For the students, it is an opportunity to ask questions. And so students, don't be shy. If you have any questions, just raise your hand and join the discussion, or type your questions in the Q&A window. So when you go to the bottom of your screen, you will see one button for chatting. So that's where you can communicate with anyone directly or with the whole group as a whole. Or you can have Q&A button, which allows you to ask questions. And that one is a little bit more convenient for us to manage. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And so maybe Professor Ernesto Cavoletti will introduce the speakers. He knows you better, and we'll go from there.
Okay, thank you, Vas. I don't want to take any time to the management of the winery. We are very happy about this afternoon. We had the opera just a few minutes ago. Now we are speaking about wine. So we are speaking about two industries that are actually at the core of the image that we have about Italy abroad. So I would leave the floor to Marilena and her staff in order to introduce the winery, and then maybe we will have time for some questions and discussion. So thank you for intervening in this webinar, and please tell us about your experience and about your winery. Thank you.
All right, so then I guess the floor is yours, and please tell us about your company. Take as much time as you need.
I think you have, we cannot hear you.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
We were just waiting. Yeah, we were just waiting. Yeah. Hi, hello to everybody. And my name is Elisa, and I'm here with Laura and Elisa. So we are two Elisa. Yeah, we share the name. And unfortunately, up to now, Marilena Cocci Grifoni, the owner of the winery, is not here. She's in a meeting, but I'm sure she will come very soon during this webinar. So let's see and wait for Marilena. So in the meantime, I introduce you myself. So my name is Elisa Capretti. I am part of the marketing and export sales team of Cocci Grifoni Winery. I have been working for the winery since 2015. And so I'm happy to be part of this project. I leave the word to Laura and Elisa.
Okay, my name is Laura. Hi to everybody. I've been a friend of Marilena for some 20 years maybe, but in the last years we have developed a sort of professional cooperation. Because 3 years ago, she came to me and she said, I would like to find a platform for my brand. Because this old family winery is now not so adequate to compete in the international market. And so we decided together to develop a project of brand building based upon a sort of long interviews with stakeholders, internal and external of the company, so as to mine the true identity of Cocci Grifoni. This has proven to be a very useful and moving activity, which has completely changed the identity of the company and also the feeling of the people working inside the company. So what you see now today on the website Steward of the Land is not a claim, it's not just a claim, it's a true synthesis of the identity of this company, which was born at the end of the 19th century as a simple farm, raising cattle and growing a lot of different kinds of crops, and then slowly becoming a specialized company in grape cultivation. And so now I am a manager in outsourcing for this company, and I'm working with the ladies here to develop this concept of steward of the land and all the actionable ideas that we can project together to spread the brand in the international market. And Lisa is the other lady who is with us today.
The other Elisa. Hello, everybody. And yeah, I'm an external manager too, and I support the export and marketing team for certain countries, like the Far East countries and the Northern Europe countries, Scandinavia in particular. And I'm also a sommelier and a professional taster, wine taster of the Italian Sommelier Association. So if anybody has some question, some specific question concerning wine, I hope I can help to solve any possible problem. That's all.
Very impressive, yeah.
Yeah, now Marilena came and joined us. Marilena, come and introduce yourself. Yeah. Okay, here we have Marilena.
Hi.
Oh,
How are you? Ciao Ernest, how are you?
hello, nice to see you. So
Nice
here
to
we
see you
are.
again. Sorry for my late, but we had 30 Turkish people.
Okay, thank you.
They say that they don't drink, but we have collected almost 15 empty bottles.
Oh my
They
God.
are Muslim.
So drinking Muslim. Okay.
Drinking Muslim. Anyway, where did you?
Well, we just were presenting each other. So we are
Okay,
just
good.
starting with presenting the company. So if you want to introduce actually the winery and its history and what you're doing, this is the time.
Oddio, adesso che sono così stanca.
Well, you can also leave the floor to your staff. That is so brilliant.
Yeah.
I don't know if you, I mean, we have some slides.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yes,
Do we
there
have
is-
to share the screen?
Yes, there is a button on the bottom that says share screen. A green
Okay.
button. If you click on that button.
Host disabled participant screen sharing. Host disabled participant screen
Oh,
sharing.
yeah, let me see. I should be able,
Okay, thank you.
let me see how to, what I will do is I will make you a co-host, and I think that should take the, can you try it again?
Yeah.
Is it working now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
nice.
This. Okay. That's perfect.
Yes, perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Yes, maybe you can select presentation. So
How many people are in this conference call, Ernesto?
well, not so many right now, but this presentation will be recorded, and the people that are missing will be watching this presentation later on. Right now we have 20 students here.
20 students around the world?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's better if you select presentation button on
Yeah.
so we can see
Okay.
the mark slide.
This is Marilena Cocci Grifoni. I belong at the 4th generation. Now the owner are 3 women, me, my sister, and my mom. We have in property almost 95 hectares, and close to 50 hectares are at vineyards, and the other 45 hectares are between olive grove, wooden, and cereal, and everything that we can't work because our property is in a hillside. We don't have any flat part, and Marche, you know, Ernesto, because you were born in Ascoli Piceno, has only 3% flat, that is the shore part.
Marlene, can I interrupt you 1 second? If you push the button on the bottom, on the very right, you can enlarge the slide, so it is actually better, because right now it is not in the mood presentation. Okay. I don't know if you agree with us. It is a button that is on the bottom on the right.
If you go a little lower, like all the way down to the lower right.
So yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Could you please better explain what we have to do to enlarge the presentation?
Yeah, just go down to where you see number 71.
Yes, close to 71. There is, you see there is 71% on the bottom on the right, and there is a button, no, not that one. The one that is on the left of
2 centimeters to the left, yes.
Yes, that one.
Okay.
Perfect, thank you. So it is now it is much better.
Okay, that's great. Our location.
So we are close to the Adriatic Sea, and we have the influence of the sea breeze that totally we feel in our wines. They are the wind, the sea wind is very important for drying our soil, and also our and for keeping healthy from the disease our grapes. You see the soil is mostly clay, and clay means become very white during the summertime. Clay means that the soil can drainage the water, doesn't marsh on the surface, and the only problem that we have for the clay is the erosion. And it's why we have to be we carefully manage our soil for planting our vineyards.
Okay.
Yes, I just would like to focus on the terroir concept, because we used to define ourselves as a winery that produce terroir wines. So what does it mean? It means that is strictly connected to the sustainable wine concept, because in a sustainable wine you can feel the terroir in some way. So you can feel the place in which these vineyards are grown actually. So the terroir includes several elements. First of all, the soil. So we as a winery that produce terroir wines and sustainable wines, we have to be able to convey the soil in the wines. So we have different soil with different characters, and the wine that are produced in these different soils has to be convey certain elements. First of all, the presence of clay. We said that our soil is mainly clay, and this kind of soil produce a specific kind of wine that are full-bodied wines with the deep color for both white and red wines, and with this very complex aroma. And the second element that we have to consider after the soil is the climate. So we have a very specific climate that is a Mediterranean climate, but we have some elements that mitigate it a lot. That is the presence of Adriatic Sea. We are very close to Adriatic Sea. It's about 4 kilometers from here, and the presence of the Balkan breeze, the cold breeze from the east side. So it's a Mediterranean climate, but is mitigated by these elements. So you have to, when you drink our wines, you have to feel the soil and this kind of climate. Then we have the microclimate, because our vineyards are surrounded by specific environment elements, like canyons, ravines, and woods. And this kind of microclimate give some effects on the grapes. For example, that the temperature variations from day and night give a very complex aroma to our wines. And we have also, we care a lot the wildlife that used to live in our ravines and woods, because it's very important to maintain the natural environment all around the vineyards, because we don't have to affect the natural growing of the grapes with too much chemicals or some other not sustainable elements. So then we have to consider the soil. I already explained, and we have to consider the vintage. In these pictures, you can see the ravines that are all around the vineyards. In these ravines, there are a lot of wild animals and wild birds that are quite very important to keep alive, and because they actually protect the vineyards. We used to say that we are the stewards of the land, but actually also the wild animals and the wild herbs and flowers are stewards of our vineyards too. So it's very important to convey. So that this is the concept and what all the elements that we would like that people feel in the wines, to understand that are really terroir wines and sustainable wines. And now I think that Elisa can go ahead with the presentation.
Okay, just. Okay. Concerning the hectares that Cocci Grifoni family has, please consider that the family own the land, and they own about 95 hectares of land, but only the half is planted in vineyards. So we have about 45 hectares of vineyards. I'd like to show you the map of our land. This is very important to better understand also who we are. Here, where you read winery, it's where the establishment, where the winery is located, highlighted in yellow. I don't know if you can see here the winery where we are. And then very close to the winery, we have the first vineyard of Montepulciano grapes, one of the most ancient and historical vineyard of the region. And here you have the so-called San Basso estate, so more vineyard, always within Tenuta Cocci Grifoni property. And we also have Tara estate. It's important to see the map of the land before showing you the bottles, the labels. The production is divided in wines from historical vineyards that are considered our wines of memory, and so grapes only, so please keep also always in mind only autochthonous grapes. Passerina, Pecorino, Montepulciano, and Sangiovese that grow in 30-35 years old vineyard. Here you can see the 4 wines that are considered the historical vineyards wines. So we have the 3 appellations: Offida, Pecorino, DOCG, these 2 white wines, the first 2. Then we have Rosso Piceno, DOC Superiore, and Offida Rosso, DOC. These are our denomination for historical vineyards. As you can see here, the labels, as my colleague Elisa has introduced you, are inspired by the nature and by the biodiversity that surrounds Tenuta Cocci Grifoni. Here I have selected for you 2 they are inspired by the nature. I mean, the first one, okay, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, because I see that the internet connection is not very well. The first label is represented by a toad, and the second label is represented by a butterfly. Both the toad and the butterfly are considered as stewards of the grape, because the toad lives near the Colle Vecchio Pecorino vineyard and eats the insects that can be dangerous for the grape. And the same for the butterfly. The butterfly is considered as stewards of the grape. So very positive, both are positive animals, because the butterfly flies from flower to flower, and thanks to its pollen helps to get healthy grapes. So we have tried to communicate this strong relationship with the land, with the nature, with the wildness that surrounds us, also through these labels. So from historical vineyards, now we have the wines from estates. Here you have labels represented by wild flowers that are typical of the 43rd parallel where we are, so central Italy, 43rd parallel. So we have white flowers that you really can spot all in the last few weeks of forget-me-nots flower, poppy flower, and borage flowers that are all around our vineyards. Here's some more picture to show you the labels of wines of estates. So forget-me-not flowers, borage flower, broom, poppy flowers. And as you can see, each bottle has been taken on its soil. I mean, of course, as my colleague told you, each grape and each vineyard is cultivated with a different soil. And here in these 2 pictures, you can better also see the kind of soil that each single wine and grape has.
Just my personal note, we have taken the soil specifically for each state, and you see the difference of the color. So the Sambasso estate and the Tara estate and the Tenimenti Leginesto estate are very close to each other, but a single spot has a specific kind of color because they are mainly clay, but each one, in the Tara there is more sand than in Sambasso, where we have mostly clay. And the Tara is why is a little bit is less darker than Sambasso Rosso Piceno Superiore.
And more suitable for the production of
Exactly.
white wines,
Because
instead
of
red wines that need the clay to have the structure and long aging.
And to be more powerful.
Yeah.
So it's important to understand, to analyze, to study to study the soil and to understand which kind of grape to plant. We have to do this studying at the beginning, because it means to get the best grape profile, and then also the best performance for our wines. Sorry for interrupting, Elisa.
No, couldn't say.
No, but la stessa cosa. No, that's good. We have also invested in these last 10 years a lot in equipment, in oak barrel, in right condition of the wine inside the cellar, because our cellar is not very old, but we have been agriculture people for more 80 years. But definitely my parents, Guido and Diana, have started their viticulture and vinification and bottling adventure at the beginning of the 70s, only after the release of Rosso Piceno Superiore DOC last 1968. So it's why the building is not very old, is not new, but it belongs at the architecture during when they were young before getting married. And you also see the denuncia dei vigneti, means to register the vineyards in the chamber, at the Chamber of Commerce, for starting the bottling of Rosso Piceno Superiore beginning of the 70s. We have to talk about Pecorino. Pecorino is totally linked to my family. Pecorino was a grape mentioned in our Valerio de Colli Ascolani DOC when it was released from our agriculture ministry in 1975. And in this DOC we read Trebbiano, Passerina, Malvasia, and also this strange name, Pecorino. Pecorino is also cheese. This grape was not planted in our local envelopy, and it's why my father became very curious through this grape, and he got some information from the bibliography, from some books, but also from some friends of him, that it was totally located in at the mountain area at 800 meters above sea level. And he went there, he found a Prefilosera vineyard Pecorino in between 1982-83, and since that he did a long personal convinced research for relocating this grape in our hillside area at 250, 280 meters above sea level. And when after 3 very small vintage and the production of Pecorino pure 100% between 1984, 5 and 6, he realized that this grape was outstanding, very particular, completely different than Trebbiano family, and he committed the grafted vines to the breeding producer in North Italy, and he planted last 1987 the first Pecorino vineyard that is called now Mother Vineyard. The wine and the label that now you are watching is a legacy wine that we introduced 3 years ago for telling to our father that he passed away 80 years ago. Thank you for your heritage not in equity, heritage in legacy, in for this great knowledge around the Pecorino. And this is a special Pecorino wine that is that was left on the noble list for 1 year and a half. We have also a good experience around Passerina sparkling wine. Passerina is a very, very soft, delighted, and female grape that is very suitable for working and for getting a very soft, dry sparkling wine. The present now is totally female. As I have said you, the owner are 3, me, my sister. You see the lady, dark lady, she's my sister, and my mom. And the future is also female, because I have 2 daughters, Marta and Tanina, that are now studying at the university. Laura?
Yeah. We can come now to the challenge and to the topic of sustainability. And I would like to tell you something about sustainable wine. Because when you drink, when you buy a bottle of wine, or when you drink the wine, you have to wonder always where the grapes come from. You know that the international industry of drinks, alcoholics, and especially wine, produce a lot of CO2, because many barrels and bags travel all around the world to assist some companies in the wine production. In very few cases, you have the chain which is completely integrated in the same company. This is the first topic that I would like to introduce to you when we talk about sustainable wine. So, from the field to the bottle in this company, you have always control, and you have always the same property. And everything is performed in an array of, can we say, 15 kilometers at most, the maximum, first of all. So for us, sustainable wine is something which has to do with the origin of the grapes. And it's not so common, as I said before, to find a wine which is completely produced and bottled by the same company. The second topic is the environment at large. When we think about Italy, and we think about very famous territories which have well-known brands for wine, we have to consider that the exploitation of the land is very intensive. It's a big business, so you have to trade the grapes and the vineyards 10 times every year, because you cannot afford the possibility of a loss. And pollution, at the end of the story, pollution of the soil, pollution of the water, pollution of the grapes, pollution of the wines, is becoming a very hot topic. When we think about an area like Le Marche, which is mostly unknown in international stage as for wine is concerned or tourism is concerned, it's famous for the earthquake, I'm sorry. But as for our products, we are not so famous. So when you think about Le Marche, you have to consider that this is an area which has been forgotten by the big important fluxes of industry and of tourism. And we suffered this peripheral location for many years, but today we consider it an advantage because we have been forgotten and then we have not been polluted. We don't have many concrete buildings or urbanistic monsters that you can find in other parts of Italy. So we have maintained our tradition, our architecture, and we have maintained also the integrity of the land. And this is very, very important. So when we think about the land, we have to consider pollution, but also something different, something more, which is biodiversity. When we talk about intensive grape production, it means that every single corner of the land is exploited. There is no room for woods, no room for rivers, no room for wild habitats, where wild, autochthonous, indigenous animals can reproduce themselves, and which are very important, as Elisa said before, because they are also like the farmers and like the winemakers, friends of the grapes. And in this case, we have a property, a region in general, but in this case, the property Cocci Grifoni has some 55% of wild habitat, which means that you can find many interesting species of wild animals like wolves and birds or yes, eagles in the sky. And it is specifically conceived as a separation of the vineyard from the wildlife habitat to maintain a safe environment. So this is another important topic for us. To monitor what we are claiming, what we are writing on the website, what we are painting on the labels, I mean, this unpolluted area, we have now decided to carry out an actionable idea with the Italian Association for the Protection of Birds, which is connected with an international organization named BirdLife International, with headquarters in Cambridge, UK. And so we had some meetings with them, and we decided to carry out a project which is about the mapping of wild migratory birds that come to Tenuta Cocci Grifoni property to nest every year. We spoke with the experts from the Association of Bird Protection, and we discussed the possibility of finding the bird rate of reproduction as a sort of parameter, indicator of healthy safety of the environment, which is a completely new topic. So it's a challenge for both of us, but we are now working to compare in the next 6 months the data coming from Le Marche and Tenuta Cocci Grifoni with data coming from Monferrato or from Prosecco area to see in which cases birds are best choosing the vineyard. So all these topics put together for us contribute to create the concept of sustainable wine. And our curiosity and our second challenge is to understand how you young people living out of Italy in the world consider and understand the concept of sustainable wine, and possibly how is it easier, according to you, to convey this concept to future generations. in order to explain them, to teach them how to drink safely, of course. Thank you.
All right, so lots of questions. Can we proceed with the questions now, or is there more to say? So if it's okay with the questions, so the students are asking the following things. How do you advertise your product so far? So what kind of advertisement do you work with?
I'm sorry, could you please repeat us the question?
Advertisement. So how do you advertise your product at this time? What advertisement channels do you use? I suppose, do you work with an advertisement agency, or do you do it on your own? So.
Allora, I'm going to answer to this question. You saw the labels before, and the labels in the wine bottles are the first ambassadors. So we made an effort, and we studied with the experts to put the concept inside the label. So the advertisement, if we can call it so, of this concept now is the nature which is represented on the bottles. Then we are active on the main social networks like Instagram and Facebook, where the editorial line of the company is focused around the topics that we discussed before. I mean, nature and pollution, environment, and sustainability. There are no other investments at the moment that the company has budgeted to promote these.
Hello? Seems like we lost our presenters for a second here.
Yes.
Hello? So they're still here? Yeah, okay, we can see you.
Okay.
Yeah, we lost you for a second, but yes, please go on.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay, so after the moment.
How do you rank your company with other wine producing companies?
Yes, here is a question, yes, from George. You see the question, so how do you rank your company with other wine producers? So basically, who is your competition and how do you compare yourself to your competition?
Yeah, our main competitors are family companies from all around the world producing sustainable wines, where the sustainability is not just a wine that respect the natural environment as that is the most common concept under the sustainability, but also that can convey a tradition, so a long tradition in winemaking and respect for communities that used to live near here. So I think that's the kind of wines and wineries that can be considered our competitors in terms of quality.
Are you allowed to name the names of the companies that you consider your competition?
Yeah, we have already shared with the students the wineries, the Italian wineries we consider as our competitors. Among them, there is Garofoli, always in Marche region. So we consider Garofoli winery as one of our competitors. Yeah.
Good competitor.
Mm-hmm. Now, I will remind the students that if you would like to, or admin professors, if you would like to ask your questions, you can do two things. You can either type your question in the Q&A field, so it's at the bottom of your screen, or just raise your hand and we will add you to the discussion. So this way you will be able to talk and engage in the discussion directly.
Okay.
So now there is a question that I just got by email. Transportation. Is the wine affected by transportation? Is it a problem to ship wine to different continents? How does it work? How do you ship your product?
Yeah. Transportation is the first topic I quoted before because we are thinking about some possible solution, which the company has not carried out yet, but we are thinking about. One is the sale of wine in bar, which means then you can sell the wine in big barrels and then to bottle the wines directly at the place of consumption. This is one possibility that is now being exploited by several European players because you know that glass is very heavy and also the glass recycling is not so easy. So some players are also thinking about bottling in plastic, in bioplastic bottles, which are being developed by innovative industry now in Europe and in the United States as well, I think. So the first thing and the most important thing is to organize solution. At the moment, the solution which the company has implemented is just to reduce sensitively the weight of the glass, the bottle weight.
Mm-hmm. Now, there was a question from Audrey, and I thought it's a good question. Audrey, if you are with us here, you can just unmute your microphone and ask your question.
How would you describe your wine? Is it a premium or is it designed as a wine that the average young person can buy?
Yes.
We can.
It seems like we lost you again. Elisa? Hello, hello. So hopefully it's a short. Okay. Seems like we lost our presenters. Ah, here you are. Okay, yes, please. Sorry, we lost you right when you started answering the question. Hello, hello?
Yes, we are here.
Yeah, it seems like we lost you for a second. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. No. We have to answer at the previous time.
So the last question that you started answering, how would you describe your wine? Is it premium or is it designed?
Our wines are, we can say that are very terroir wine that can talk and for our soil, our climate, and also our philosophy to produce wine. We try have here to respect the season, to avoid to have a standard wine for every year, because it's important to respect the season, especially summertime. If it's a very rainy season, maybe we have some wines where the alcohol is lower. And when we have a season like last year where it was extremely hot, we have to keep and to sell wines at a higher alcohol. This is just a point, but also the structure of the wine. So means that year per year, we don't have the same structure, the same profile for specific wine. And there is a second question. In average, young people can buy our wine. We have been involved in viticulture and vinification.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, there is also a question about geography. Where do you currently sell your product? What countries do you sell them to? And then more importantly, what specific markets are you interested in most?
Nemmeno io non bene.
No, I'm sorry, we don't understand.
So the geography of your customers. So what countries buy your products, and then also other specific countries that you are most interested in.
The geography of our customer is 70% Italy, 30% abroad.
Qual è il target?
And the 30% is abroad. The target, we in Italy, we know better the target because we directly sell to our consumer, to our customers. And we have an increasing, and we see year per year more interest through our wines from young people that we say millennials. Abroad, we don't know directly our final consumer because we pass through importers and we pass through distributors.
Can you explain that a little more? So how exactly does it work? Do you find your distributors? So what's the exact distribution kind of model?
So we have it's different between the European community and the extra-European community. If we talk about European community, we have a very simple, easy, and fast market, especially in a country where there are the excise is low or zero, like Germany, like France. And in other countries, the excise, the duty is not too high. And it's very easy to arrange transport, so we can arrange transport in 2 days, maximum 3 days, the pallets reach our client in Holland, in Germany, in Belgium. It's different. It's different if we think extra-European community. China is completely different, and Elisa knows better than me, than Canada or America. USA, you are an American citizen, and in America there are 3 layers, and we have to respect this configuration of the market specifically for alcohol beverage. And we have to look for the prospective importer or distributor that consider interesting our wines, that then they don't have in their portfolio market region, and they consider that there is a specific right balance between price, between philosophy, between quality, between several points that can fit in distributor wine portfolio. Do I have explained you? I have or your question was different.
No, that's exactly what I meant. So yes, how exactly this works? Yeah. So
we have to analyze the market. We have to analyze the market. There are some markets where there are important borders, like Ontario. In Ontario or in Quebec, there is monopoly. Okay, and monopoly means the state. Means that we have to push the buyer here per here, and we have to convince and to enter in their blood and in their heart and in their mind, and they consider that the region is going up in reputation, is going up some grape like Pecorino is growing up in reputation and in demand from the people, and they launch a specific tender for specific wines from specific region.
Right, right.
And then if we are so, sometimes it needs to be lucky, but also to center price, to center the quality, to center the image. It's very important that the image, because the image of the label that goes to the shelf is different than the image of the wine that goes to the table of a restaurant or wine bar or HoReCa people.
Mm-hmm.
We have to analyze all these requirements for winning this challenge, because there is just one winner between maybe 20, 30, 40 wineries that apply for the same tender.
Right.
And also Lisa knows for Finland, for Sweden and Norway.
Marilena, if I can, you said that 30% of sales are going abroad.
Pardon me?
Yes, you said that 30% of sales are going abroad.
30%.
Yes, can you tell something more about that 30%? So I mean, how much is going to Germany, how much to the UK, how much to the United States, more or less, so that we can understand which are the main foreign markets.
So we share between European community and the extra European community. It's 20 Europe and 10 extra European community. When we say European community, is no different between Germany or Holland or Belgium, Ernesto.
Why?
Because it's Europe. For us,
yes, I mean, but from a marketing point of view, this is different, because actually if you are selling in Germany, you need a label that is in German.
No, no. The rules are European, and we are under European label. There is one rule.
So we have you have one label that is in Italian, in English, or is it?
Of course, we have, yes, we have in the double language, we have in Italian and English, and they can suit for everywhere in Europe. When we have to ship in America, we need the specific label, because we have to mention the name of the importer, because they go under the Drug Food Administration. And if we ship to Japan, some importer ask the translated label, some no, but we have to consider that from next year, European community has closed an important deal with Japan for cutting all the taxes. And also for Australia, there are some specific labels. But in Europe, except for Poland, that they send us a specific label that we have to put as special for the state, because it means that the distributor, the Polish distributor, pays the taxes to the Polish state. But in Germany, in Holland, in France, in Austria, in Switzerland, we have the same back label.
So
I have a question.
Okay, thank you.
So when you ship to the United States, one of the challenges I think that a lot of non-American alcohol providers have a challenge with is the content. We have a much lower alcohol content that's acceptable in our country. So how do you moderate the alcohol content of your wines that go to the United States? And then I have a second question. So that's the first question. You were talking about shipping wine in barrels and having it sent abroad to get bottled. And then you were thinking about also using plastics. And I know that some wines actually go in boxes. The second question is, do you think that your customers actually diminish their perceived value of these products by them being boxed or bottled by somebody else and then being boxed or bottled as opposed to being in your traditional wine bottles? So those are my two questions. Thank you.
Allora, la seconda rispondi tu, la prima rispondo io.
About the alcohol, you are right, madam. We have to be for 90% of our wines below 13 as alcohol. We have this challenge in every season to keep and to stay under this level. But except 1 or 2, 3 wines that belong at our historical vineyards, that is the lower quantity between our production. The other wines are between 12.50 till 13. That is the max alcohol accepted from the distributor in America. But they can also buy wines up to 14. They know that they have to pay more taxes up to the customer. But it's up to the wine, because generally the wines are up to 14 as alcohol. They belong at a very small production, a very legacy wine, and the ex-seller price is higher than the state wines, and the distributor knows that, but they go to specific target of their client, and they don't buy in large quantity, but in small quantity. As a second question,
in Europe, there are now, there are different targets, completely different, with different levels. Traditional bottles with traditional glass and traditional labels are for a traditional consumer that want to find value also in the packaging of the wine. There is another target of consumers that we imagine are young consumers that are very keen, very focused on the sustainability of wine and on the health of the planet. So in Europe, there is a quite new phenomenon, which means that some restaurant chains or shop chains are developing their product label under which they prefer to import wine in bulk, to bottle directly on site, explaining to the consumer that the wine comes from premium European family wineries, of course, but not necessarily putting the brand of these wineries on the bottle. And it's very good because it's safer for the environment, and we suppose that the young people, or ecological people, are more willing to buy this kind of wine instead of the traditional wine. So we are considering both the targets.
There is a very important question from one of our professors, Tim Muth. So in the challenge that we presented to the students, we asked them to develop a promotion strategy for your company, for your product. The question is, should they focus on Italian market or global market or a specific region of the planet?
We don't know exactly which is the specialization of your professors and students. I think that they should develop the best strategy in the best field of interest that they are
right
now. So
they're basically then free to choose a market. So they would be then free to choose a market that they believe there would be enough demand for the product and not much competition, and then develop a strategy for that market. It does not have to be all within Italy.
To clarify the student challenge. I think was wine.
But why? I think it's a bit too sophisticated. Well, I don't know. Maybe we should consider how the cluster of students is composed of, and then considering together which are the best area for you to study in order to develop a realistic promotional strategy. Well, I don't know. You are teachers, please suggest.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, we will try to advise the students. But yes, it sounds to me that the students would need to start with assessment of the competition and the markets, and then depending on their assessment, select the most promising new market or segment of the market, and then develop a promotion strategy for that specific choice or sub-market. So, yeah, okay. All right, so I'm not sure if we have any more questions. Do we have, I'm looking at the comments from the students. We have some comments, but they seem to be repetitive. So those issues have been addressed. So any last minute questions? Because we seem to be out of time too, right? Yes. Melanie, you need to unmute your microphone. Yes, go ahead, please. Microphone? Still, okay, yeah, unmute it now.
So I'm sure that I'm not going to be allowed to come and visit your winery with the students, because I'm sure that all of the other faculty who have priority will get to go to your. So would you host us to come and visit your vineyard maybe 1 week prior to our visits? Maybe, Ernesto? Maybe we can travel that?
That's a good question.
There?
Yes, for sure we can. If they are inviting us, for sure we can.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much.
And we have to walk, we have to be trained because it's very steep.
Okay, so I will wear sneakers or running shoes.
One question: what is the drinking age in Italy? How soon can children or students or people drink wine?
Which kind or when? I didn't understand. Sorry.
What is the minimum age at which people are allowed to drink wine?
From 18.
18. Okay. Okay. Good. So most of our students will be above.
From 21.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in the United States it's 21. Yes. I have.
Okay. You are in Europe. It's 18.
Yeah. But from what I understand, I lived in Germany for a little while, and what I remember is that if you are drinking wine at your home, say at dinner time, you can drink as young as your parents permit you. Is that correct, Ernesto?
Yes, this is correct.
Yes.
So American students don't get any ideas.
But how old are in average your students that will join Italy next month?
Probably more like 25.
Okay, but they are adults.
There will be some who will be even older, and then I think the youngest one probably will be more like 23 plus or minus.
We have a couple of 19-year-olds.
With you?
Oh,
okay.
Yes,
Okay.
we do. And in the United States, young students are not allowed to drink until they're 21.
Yeah.
So if we give a 19-year-old, and you guys know who you are, alcohol at this point, a half a glass of wine will knock them out.
I know we have a colleague, Daniel Roddick, in Florida, and probably Tim and Leilani know that. So they have at the Florida Gulf Coast University, they have a whole program for wine tasting. So they train people to taste wine. And so they had to pass a separate law in the state of Florida that allows students to take that course before they reach the age of 21, as long as the professor guarantees that they will not swallow the wine, but only taste it in the mouth, and they're gonna spit it in a special container.
Yes,
So
yes.
that's.
We have the same thing, Johnson University.
Oh, you have that too?
Culinary school, right?
Yeah, okay.
We actually have a sommelier certification program that goes through our university. And imagine that a lot of those students who take that sommelier program their ages 18 and 19.
Right.
So they are not permitted to swallow, so they have to spit every time they taste.
Yeah. Well,
can we place to you a question that you could extend to the students that I imagine they are in millennials?
Yes.
We are placing inside in our winery how to be more attractive in tasting and tasty to young people, a young generation that were born after after 1985 till 2000. So what do they prefer? They prefer very robust wine or very soft wine, more white, more red, more rosé. Now there is a trend for rosé wines. So it's very important for us to understand in a young generation, not only Italian or European, but from Eastern and Western countries, in average, what they prefer mostly.
Yeah, Ernesto, I think that we can develop a questionnaire and then distribute this maybe
Yes.
when we
For
come.
For certain we can, yes.
Yeah, and we'll collect the data for you, and then we'll interpret that data for you before we leave Italy.
Okay, good. Right? Because it's an important discussion. So because for them it's important only the alcohol, only the brand, or if they analyze the values that are behind a brand and a bottle of wine. What do they ask?
Yes, I think we can also, yes, I think we can also ask team and the teams to work on this line of thinking too.
Very good. And we can collect that data at the exit interview, because we'll have a couple of surveys that we'll have to deliver anyway.
All right, so we seem to be way over time, so let's stop here. We'll have more opportunities to ask questions in a few weeks when we visit Italy. So thank you so much.
See you next month, and we go together to our vineyards.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm gonna wear sneakers.
Good. Good. We go together and we go around our canyon.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Marilena, and all the staff. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And we are here for everything, Ernesto. You can place every question, and also all the staff. And we are very, we have the pleasure to answer and to stay in this good and pleasant challenge.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Grazie.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye. Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao.